Hello, welcome to Eden and Ivory. Thank you so much for tuning in to our second episode of the Wisdom and Womanhood series. And this right here is part 2 to my story of how God revealed that there was a Judas in my circle. I'm your host, Tiara, and I am so grateful that you are here. And let's just go ahead and get straight into part 2 of this video. Point number 7 in this story is when I began to truly disconnect. After being disrespected on several different occasions, I began to accept that this is obviously just who you are. Like, this is who you are in your core. Obviously, you're a disrespectful person who does not care about other people's boundaries. And I think it's really interesting because this person has lived with several different friends before and it has never ever worked out. And the most recent friend that they had lived with was a few years before they lived with me. And they moved into this friend's trailer. This person had owned their own trailer. Bianca moved in with them, and I only met this person once, but I thought they were very kind. I thought they were very sweet. I went to their house one weekend and it was quite a few of us over there, and Bianca's friend had made they made us a huge dinner, made sure that we were okay, made sure we were good. I thought they were a very, very kind person. But again, obviously I don't know them, but that was just my first impression of them, having stayed at their house for a weekend. Bianca acted like, oh, like we're best friends, this and that and everything. But when this person started to set boundaries with Bianca, like, hey, please help me do the dishes. Hey, please help me mow the lawn. Things like that. Like, you're living in her house, help her keep up with the house, right? Bianca took that very personally. I remember Bianca talking to me, just ranting over and over and over again about this person. Like, I clean my dishes. I do this. I do that. She's always trying to make things up and start arguments with me and everything. And I'm just like, even then, before she moved in with me, I was just like, I don't really see that person doing that, and not only that, but this is their home. Like, all they're doing is asking for help with their home. And obviously, having lived with Bianca at this point, I can tell you, Bianca don't do no dishes. I can tell you that straight out. And it actually kind of made me feel bad for the person that she had lived with previously. Obviously, I don't know them. I'm not saying this person was perfect, but having lived with Bianca for 7 months, I'm just like, wow, I can't even imagine what that person was going through previously, because I feel like it was also different because, one, I serve God. So I have God always talking to me, always telling me about people, telling me about situations, giving me direction. And not only that, but also my mom was here too, who also follows God and who also has discernment. And she was watching this stuff happen too. So it definitely validated me and made me feel less crazy to know, okay, somebody else is seeing this in real time and I'm not just making things up. At this point, God really began to peel the scales from my eyes. Like I had mentioned before, I had already started to disconnect from this person once they showed me their true colors and once they disrespected me on several different occasions. One thing about me, I will give you time and time again. I'm a very loving person, but once I'm done with you, it's like I don't even know you. It's like, once I get to that point where I turn that off, it's done. You're done. There's no coming back from that. And I had reached this point only a month after this person had moved into my house. Acts chapter 9, verse 18 says, instantly something like scales fell from Saul's eyes and he regained his sight. Then he got up and was baptized. God literally began to peel the scales from my eyes. Every way in which I had rose-colored glasses before, every single way in which I had gaslit myself before, every way in which I felt like I was making things up, God showed me, girl, you was not making that up. That was very much so exactly what was going on here. I was done protecting her and making excuses for her, and I could finally see clearly. And God also assisted me in the grieving process and provided me with a smooth transition because, you got to remember, this was a 17-year friendship. Obviously, this was not actually a friendship, but from my perspective, I was actually genuinely friends with this person. They weren't my friend, but I was their friend. So this was a 17-year friendship that I had to let go of, y'all. So God assisted me in the grieving process, and I give him all glory and praises for that. And the grieving process for me started in November when I started to truly disconnect from Bianca. My 8th point is Judas began to reveal himself. At this point, like I said, we're only a month in, and after Bianca had disrespected my boundaries several different times, I had went to my mom basically and was like, I don't feel comfortable with Bianca staying here. I don't really feel like there's a reason for her to be here. Very clearly, she's disrespectful. She does not respect my home. She does not respect my boundaries, and I don't feel like the situation is going to get any better. Now, this part of the story is very interesting, or very key. So my mom did not feel right kicking Bianca out. She was like, we told her she could stay here, and I'm not gonna just have, you know, somebody just living out on the streets. And also my mom had a very soft spot for Bianca, a soft spot that, if I'm being completely honest, I didn't really have, just because my mom saw herself in Bianca. Like, she saw herself, her younger self in Bianca. So like, she had some kind of emotional attachment there or something. I don't really even know what to say about that, but basically she had a soft spot for Bianca, a soft spot that, truth be told, I didn't really have, because I didn't see myself in Bianca in any way, shape, or form. And the reason why I say this part of the story is so key is that Bianca stayed in our house for 6 more months after that. And the reason why I say that's so key is because, remember when I was 8 years old and I tried to remove myself from the situation and was shut down and made to feel like a villain? I won't say that exact same thing was happening again, because my mom was not making me feel like a villain or making me feel like I was wrong, but I was being silenced. I was telling somebody, again, I don't feel comfortable with this person. I don't think this person should be a part of my life. I don't think this person should be residing in my home. And I was silenced again. The reason why that is so imperative to the story, to my story, was that, again, God was telling me something. God was telling me to remove myself from a situation, and I allowed somebody to silence me. Now, the first time when I was 8 years old, I can understand being silenced in that situation, because I'm only 8 years old and I have somebody screaming at me, basically telling me like, you're wrong, you're messed up, you need to go reconcile, you know? So I can understand that. But at this point, I'm a grown adult. Like, no matter what my mom said, I should have listened to God, and I should have listened to my own inclinations above all else, because at the end of the day, Bianca was my friend, not hers, you know? So, and I was the one that invited her into the home. So I should have had the final say in, okay, I respect your opinion, I respect your viewpoint, but at the end of the day, I'm an adult and I'm putting an end to this situation. And conversation over. So if y'all don't take anything else from this, when you have a sinister feeling about somebody, when your discernment is telling you this person is not for you, I don't care what anybody has to say. Anybody. I don't care if it's your mom, I don't care if it's your sister, I don't care if it's your daddy, I don't care if it's your granddaddy. I don't care. You need to set yourself free. You need to value what your intuition is saying to you. You need to value what the Holy Spirit is speaking to you, regardless of who tries to silence you. Acts chapter 5 verse 29 says, "But Peter and the apostles replied, 'We must obey God rather than any human authority.'" We need to be listening to God, not to our, I won't say not to our parents, because obviously respect your parents, y'all. But again, like I said, if God is telling you something, it doesn't matter what a human is saying. It does not matter. It holds no weight. You need to be following God's instruction. When God gives you an inkling, follow it. As I mentioned before, John 10:10, the enemy comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. What was this person doing? They came and they only consumed. I can literally count on one hand, and I wouldn't even need all 5 fingers, the amount of times this person contributed to the household. They just took. And that's literally all Satan can do. All he can do is consume. He can't create. He can't add anything. All he can do is consume and take what God has already created and try to flip it and try to basically make a clone out of it. That's all he can do. He's not creative. He has no original thoughts. He can't add anything. He adds no value. And I had to really work through the anger I was experiencing as far as this person disrespecting my boundaries went, because when they made it very clear that they were not going to respect my boundaries, and then when I had went along with what my mom had said about letting them stay here, I was really at a crossroads. I really didn't know what to do, because it's just like, this person obviously doesn't respect me, but they're still in my home, and I won't say I can't get rid of them, because obviously I could have at any point in time. I didn't feel like I could get rid of them. And so during this time, I was really, really struggling, y'all. Like I said, I was having a whole bunch of outbursts of anger, not towards this person or anything, or not like to their face or anything, but like when they wouldn't be there, like when I'd be cleaning the bathroom and everything, I'd be so mad. I'd just be raging, like, oh, I wish they would come in here and help me. Like, I wish they would pull their weight. I wish they do this. I wish they do that. Like, girl, stop wasting your energy. And I remember I was talking to my mom one day about it. She was like, Tiara, you love to clean, which is true. I love to clean. She's like, Tiara, you love to clean. So why are you allowing this person's like lack of initiative to enrage you like this. Like, you would go in the bathroom and clean it anyway, so go in there and do it with a smile on your face. And this part, or this point that she made, is so, it holds a lot of weight, because I didn't realize at the time, but by me being fueled by rage and anger, yeah, I was feeding the demon. I was literally feeding it, because the thing is that a demon or narcissist, all that stuff, they don't care about what kind of energy you give them. They don't care if it's negative or if it's positive. They just want your energy. So when I was raging, when I was really upset, when I was living just in unbridled anger, this thing, yeah, I was feeding it. It was getting stronger and stronger while I was getting weaker. I got to a point where I was like, okay, Ma, because at first when she was saying that, I was not trying to hear it. I was like, okay, Mom, please leave me alone. But after a while, I was like, okay, you know what? No, you're right. I love cleaning. So let me go in here and clean. Let me go in here and do what I would already be doing anyway, because this is my bathroom, because this is my home. And I refuse to give this person power over me. And it was not that easy, y'all. Like, it was a whole process, but I did eventually get there. It's really interesting, because as I started to take my energy back and stop fueling this demon, I started to notice a change in this person. They were the ones that started to become snippy. They were the ones that started to become irritable, as if their energy had been altered. And they really had no reason to be snippy or irritable, because yeah, I mean, they were paying rent, but that's all they were doing. They were adding nothing to utilities. They were adding nothing to Wi-Fi. They were adding nothing to household items like laundry products, all that stuff. They added nothing. At this point, you're pretty much getting a free ride. So in my personal opinion, you have no reason to be upset. This is where it started to get really interesting. So I want to say this was probably in like December of the year that they had moved into my home. This person had only been to church with me like once before, but they had the idea to go to church on Sunday. Like, and they were really excited. They were like, oh, I want to go to church tomorrow. I want to go to church tomorrow and everything. So we woke up on Sunday, got ready, and went to church. So one thing I will say is that I used to work at my church. I used to be my pastor's secretary. So I know a lot of people there. I have relationships with them, very close to them. And like, so when I go to church on Sunday, it's like a whole catch-up session, because these are people that I used to see on a regular basis. So now when they see me, they're very excited. I'm very excited to see them too, right? When I was talking to my church community, I would say like a normal person would like jump into the conversation and be like, hey, you know, I'm Bianca, like, nice to meet you, blah, blah, whatever. No, this person was fuming when I was sitting there, or when I was standing there getting all of this love and this attention and everything, and like just these amazing energy exchanges. This person was pissed. They were very upset. They didn't explicitly say so, but between like their body language and their energy, like it was pretty much like Satan was just standing there. The really funny and interesting thing is that, you know, we were sitting in the pew listening to pastor preach, and I totally forgot what he was preaching about, but he actually said to the audience, "Are you a demon?" He asked the audience, "Are you a demon?" And initially, you know, the audience like kind of laughed and everything, because, you know, it's kind of a funny question, you know, like, are you a demon? Like, you know, when I heard that, I initially laughed, but then it had me like thinking like, dang, am I a demon? So I had to kind of do like a self-evaluation. But here's the interesting thing. Bianca was sitting up to my right, and when I tell you, when he asked that question, two things happened. Two things that I felt immediately, energetically. It was like all the blood had drained from Bianca's face, for one. In addition to that, their entire body just locked up, just completely locked up. And like when I said before, like all the church members speaking to me, all the love and everything I was getting, that came afterwards. That came after the sermon, when we were kind of like finishing up church and everything. And this person was very triggered when pastor had asked, "Are you a demon?" Their entire energy had completely shifted. I will say, like, just from the moment we walked into the place, their energy had shifted, period. But it was like it got darker and darker. It was like Satan was coming to the forefront more and more. One thing I will say is that regardless of this person saying they wanted to go to church and playing this role and everything, one thing they were very adamant on was the fact that I'm not a Christian. They were very adamant on that. They made that very abundantly clear. I'm not a Christian. I'm not. And They never said that to me before they moved into my home. As a matter of fact, they used God as a way to get into my home, which I think is so crazy because the Bible literally says that even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. This person used God to get in my home. And how did they do that? They claimed that they had prayed to God for a family. They had prayed to God for, a safe space. And God gave them that. Like, my home, something I hear every time somebody comes to my house is like, man, it's just so peaceful here. It's so relaxing. Like, I just want to just go to sleep. Like, I just want to just lay down, because this is like a place of peace and tranquility. Like, God literally resides here. It's such a healing sanctuary, which is why I'm very selective with who is even allowed to walk through that front door. And so they use God and the claim of having a prayer and everything to get into my home, and God gave them exactly what they claim that they asked for. I mean, this person is a pathological liar, so I don't know what was actually true of what they said, but God definitely gave them a safe place to stay, a place that they did not have to run from, and a very healing and peaceful family to be a part of. And they spit in his face, they being Bianca. After that last time that we had went to church and Bianca was very obviously triggered, she never ever said anything about church ever again. Like, the remaining 5 months or so that she was in my home, never ever said anything about church ever again. They also refused to pray. They refused to read their Bible or anything edifying. And this person would often say like, oh, I pray and everything. But I came to realize, I don't think we were praying to the same God. Like, sure, Bianca may have been praying, but I don't think she was praying to God. I don't think she was praying to the Most High God. I can't say exactly for sure what she was praying to, but it definitely was not the Lord. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 3-4 say, if the good news we preach is hidden behind a veil, it is hidden only from people who are perishing. Satan, who is the god of this world, has blinded the minds of those who don't believe. They are unable to see the glorious light of the good news. They don't understand this message about the glory of Christ, who is the exact likeness of God. Romans chapter 1, verses 21-25, which says, yes, they knew God, but they wouldn't worship him as God or even give him thanks. And they began to think up foolish ideas of what God was like. As a result, their minds became dark and confused. Claiming to be wise, they instead became utter fools. And instead of worshiping the glorious, ever-living God, they worshiped the idols made to look like mere people and birds and animals and reptiles. So God abandoned them to do whatever shameful things their hearts desired. As a result, they did vile and degrading things with each other's bodies. They traded the truth about God for a lie. So they worshipped and served the things God created instead of the Creator himself, who is worthy of eternal praise. Amen. I think that verse pretty much perfectly sums up Bianca and the thought process that they had, because again, this person had, and it's just so interesting how people will literally just lie and disguise themselves, because this person had so many things going on that I didn't even know about, that I will get into later. But before that, I want to get into my next Bible verse, which is 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 14, which says, but I am not surprised. Even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. Like, child, like, it is just really so crazy the lengths that Satan will go to get to God's children. Like, the fact that Satan really had this person playing a role for nearly 2 decades as a hopes of taking me out. It's really sick. And one thing I thought was really interesting, y'all, is that even when you don't peep things, when you have people around you that, sorry if you can hear my dog moving around, but if you have people around you that care about you, even if you don't peep something, I promise you they did. And it wasn't until I started to tell people, like, at the end of all this and everything, what had happened. Y'all, I had so many people, my grandmother, my aunt, my uncle, so many people that came forth and was like, people who had met Bianca, who came forth and was like, yeah, I thought she was kind of strange, or like, I thought she was kind of off, but I didn't want to say anything because, that was your friend. And one thing that I thought was really interesting that my uncle said was, she seemed like she was hiding. Like, when I looked at her, she looked like she was hiding. What does Daniel chapter 2 verse 22 say? He reveals deep and mysterious things and knows what lies hidden in darkness, though he is surrounded by light. God sees what's going on in the darkness. He knows what's going on in the darkness, even when we have no idea, right? And so that leads me to my next point, point 9, where God revealed more to me. So Bianca, like I mentioned before, was very promiscuous, very, very promiscuous, which, again, like I said, the person is a pathological liar. I don't know what was true and what was not true, but they claim to have been SA'd by several different people in their lives. So it's not really surprising that they would be promiscuous, because that's usually the outcome of people who are SA'd. Or I won't say it's usually the outcome, but it's a very common outcome. So like I said, this person came into my home and they were playing a role. So basically it was, and this is how covert narcissists work. They want to get into your mind. They want to figure out how you think so they can pretend that they think the same way. They want to pretend that y'all are one and the same. They want to pretend that, like, oh man, I believe that too, or I do that too, or, like they want to act like monkey see, monkey do type stuff. And it's just like, no, monkey see, monkey pretend to do, but monkey doing some other stuff in the shadows. Okay. So after moving into our home and everything, my mother and I have done a lot of work. We are not perfect. We are not perfect by any means. But after being out here and being sexually immoral and, lying and doing all these sins and everything, we've learned, y'all, that stuff is just not worth it. Like, it just truly is not. So one of the things that we spoke about was sexual morality and saving ourselves for our future husbands. Right? And so Bianca pretended to jump on this wave. Mind you, like I said, this is somebody who's very promiscuous. And during the time that she was here, she didn't do any work to heal. She didn't do any work to actually grow or become a better person. So if you came in and you're promiscuous and you haven't healed that, then guess what? You're probably still promiscuous, right? Regardless of how you pretend to be or how you present yourself. So after hearing the way that me and my mother were speaking, Bianca was like, oh yeah, I'm waiting on my husband too. I'm waiting on my husband too. So in 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 11, it says, I meant that you are not to associate with anyone who claims to be a believer, yet indulges in sexual sin, or is greedy, or worships idols, or is abusive, or is a drunkard, or cheats people. Don't even eat with such people. So like I said, this person actually never really claimed to be a believer. Like, even though they were going through the motions, they were still very adamant on, I'm not a Christian, regardless of like them pretending to believe in God and all this other stuff. But heck, I feel like with them saying that makes this verse even more true, even though they were not a believer. The fact that they were so adamant on not following God and they were doing all of these things, I feel like that makes it even more true, right? I mean, I can't say that they were a drunkard. I don't think they're an alcoholic, but I don't know. I think it's so interesting because it literally says don't even eat with such people. And like I said, she didn't know how to cook at all. Like, she would make, mainly she lived off of pot pies and ramen noodles. But like, even when she would cook, it would be things where it's just like, I was literally 7 years old making Thanksgiving dinners. Yeah, like I come from like my mother and my grandmother. Like, yeah, you're not just gonna just grow up and not know how to cook and clean. Like, I'm sorry, like in the family I grew up in, that's just not an option. Like I said, I was 7 years old making holiday dinners, y'all, not by myself, but in the kitchen, making Thanksgiving dinners at 7 years old. So at this point in my life, I'm somebody who can definitely cook. So I can kind of tell when somebody, I can definitely tell when somebody can't cook. And I think it's really interesting because like when Bianca would like make things, rarely, she'd be like, oh man, this is so good, you should try this. And like, I just never felt comfortable eating her food. I didn't feel comfortable eating her food for several different reasons, but even just spiritually, because when somebody cooks for you, and this is a big reason why I don't really eat fast food like that, people's energy goes into food. And guess what? When that food goes into your body, now you have that person's energy in your body. It's really interesting because Bianca, when she first moved into our home, she was always eating our food. Like, because me and my mom, we cook a lot. And so she was always eating our food. But then one day, she just completely stopped eating our food. And I had a week where I made beef stew and I made nachos, two of Bianca's favorite meals, and she did not touch them. Why? Because she couldn't. Energetically, it did not align. Vibrationally, the vibration of the food was way too high for her to even be able to consume. And vibrationally, the vibration of her food was way too low for me to be able to consume. And this Bible verse here literally says, don't even eat with them. Don't even sit at the table with these people. That's heavy. At this point, I did not guard my spirit. And like I said, we all play a role, y'all. And this is the point in time where I was not doing what I needed to be doing as a believer. I had really fell off of my practices. I was not reading my Bible. I was not praying on a regular basis. And something came over me where I got to the point where I did not want to read my Bible. Like, I'd sit down and read one verse and be like, okay, like that was enough. Like, or like I'd sit down and read one chapter and be like, okay, God, that's enough for like the next 3 days. And like, I did not want to read my Bible. I did not want to edify myself. And it was crazy because like this came out of nowhere. Next, we're going to go to 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 8, which says, stay alert. Watch out for your great enemy, the devil. He prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Okay, so the enemy was literally prowling around my house, and what was I doing? I wasn't being alert, y'all. I was asleep. Spiritually, I was sleeping. Spiritually, I was not doing what I needed to do, which is how he got a hold of me to begin with. So y'all, do not be slacking on your spiritual practices. Do not underestimate the importance and the weight of reading your Bible, of praying, of having a connection with God and checking in with him every single day, several times a day. Like, never, ever, ever stop checking in with him, because that is the perfect way for the enemy to get in. And as a result of this, my energy began to be siphoned from me. Y'all, this is where it starts to get deep. I began to become very violently ill out of nowhere. I don't get sick often. It's very rare when I get sick, and it's very rare when I'm vomiting and stuff like that. I had zero appetite. I had no motivation. I had no drive. But guess what was happening? While my energy was being siphoned, while I was dying spiritually, this person, because she had direct access to my light, or excuse me, I'm sorry, it's not even mine, because she had direct access to God's light through my mother and I, our energy was being siphoned, and it was being transformed. I wouldn't say it was being transformed. Basically, she was just able to take the light energy from us and use that to fuel evil, pretty much. And God's light is the purest source possible. Like, it, as far as the devil wanting a source, it doesn't get any better than that. It doesn't get any better than having direct access to God. Romans 13:12 tells us, the night is almost gone. The day of salvation will soon be here. So remove your dark deeds like dirty clothes and put on the shining armor of light living. We had the shining armor of light living, okay? We had the shining armor of light completely saturated within us. And y'all, I know that I walk in this light because I've had several people tell me. I've had men that like want to get with me, and then like when I go to ask questions and everything, I've even had somebody say, you just seem so innocent. I didn't know what that meant, you seem like you're a virgin, or what that meant, but I realize now it's the light of God within me. It's the light of God that they're seeing, that they want to siphon from me. And I think it's so interesting because the only people that have ever said like something like, oh, you seem so innocent or whatever, have been people that are literally like that are literally controlled by Satan, and they want to have direct access to me. They want to have direct access to the light of God. And that's why we really have to protect ourselves and be diligent. Going to 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 11, it states, so that Satan will not outsmart us, for we are familiar with his evil schemes. So I feel like we really have to just be aware of how Satan works. Like I said, he prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. So if we know that Satan is always watching us, if we know that Satan is always present, I don't remember exactly what Bible verse it was, but there's a verse in the Bible that talks about Satan. When he's asked, where did you just come from? He says, I was just roaming the earth. I was just roaming the earth. I was looking for somebody to take advantage of. I was looking for an in. I was looking for a weak spot. He literally says he roams the earth looking for this. He's looking for somebody to take advantage of. He's looking for a vessel to live through. So we have to be diligent. We have to be on our P's and Q's. There is no room for slacking. Point number 10, demons revealed. So my mother began cleansing the house at this point because once we had had a few weeks of just being completely drained and just really feeling like death, my mom began to cleanse the house. So one day, I also want to mention that Bianca had a cat. My mom was cleansing the house and everything, and the cat starts like meow, meow. This was a very vocal cat. I feel like a lot of cats are vocal, but this cat was very vocal. And it's basically this cat started calling out to my mom and led my mom to the space in which Bianca was staying, because we only had a 2-bedroom apartment, so Bianca was actually sleeping in my living room. We had like a little cove area that was like an extension of the living room where she was staying at. The cat started to lead my mom over there and like led my mom to the corner when my mom went over there. This smoke that was coming from this incense started to turn black, and the incense almost went out. Like it didn't even want to keep burning. My mom says to Bianca, there's something over here. Something demonic is over here. And so Bianca's like, oh, like I felt like I was being watched. You mean there's something in the corner? And my mom's like, no, there is something on you. Because like when she got closer to Bianca, that's when the smoke really like started to turn black and like almost went out. And the cat literally led my mom directly to Bianca, directly to her. And so Bianca was just really in denial, like, you mean there's something in the corner? There's something in the corner. And my mom kept saying, no, there's something on you. There's something on you. And Bianca was just completely in like denial of that. And then later on, after my mom had reiterated the same point several times, Bianca was like, oh, I'm gonna have to talk to somebody about that. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. After Bianca was discovered, regardless of whether or not she accepted it, after Bianca was discovered to have demons within her, living within her, she started to move differently. She definitely did. And so over the course of time, I noticed she was just doing really strange things. So that same coveting spirit that I had mentioned that she had when we were younger, yeah, that was still very much so present. And it showed up in 2 very distinct ways. One thing about me, I am very, very loved. I have no doubts about that. Like, everybody loves me. I'm sorry, like... And that's not even to say like, oh my gosh, I'm just like such an amazing person, but no, genuinely, I have so many loving and just caring people in my life who have no reservations, people that do not have ill intentions for me. They just genuinely care about me as a human being, and all I have to do is show up. Whereas Bianca has always jumped through hoops and done tricks and been in the Olympics and everything to get the absolute bare minimum. And still at this point, I mean, aside from me and my mother, they have never experienced pure love. And that's something that Bianca really hated me for. She was incredibly envious of the fact that all I had to do was show up and people would just love on me. They would just care for me. And I started to notice that Bianca was like really envious whenever I would get gifts. Like, one thing about me, I'm spoiled. I'm going to be completely outright about that. Even as an adult, I'm still very much spoiled. Like, people love to buy me things. They love to give me things. And I love that for me. I really do. I'm somebody who my entire life, my mom always, whenever she can, which is most holidays or most years, she always gets me a Valentine's Day gift. I wasn't taught that like Valentine's Day is only for romantic partners. I was taught that Valentine's Day is for everybody, and there's been very few years in my life that I haven't gotten a Valentine's Day gift. Like, I always get something for Valentine's Day from my mom, my sister. Heck, even this year I even had a friend send me money for Valentine's Day. I always receive blessings left and right, and I thank God for that. I mean, it's all because of him. It's not anything that I've done. I noticed that this person was really envious when I would get things, and even my mom peeped. Like, my mom gave me my Valentine's Day gift in private that year because she was like, I didn't feel comfortable giving this to you in front of Bianca. Like, I feel like I need to give this to you in private. And like, it was really interesting because every single time I got something new, y'all, Bianca would peep. She'd be like, oh, did you just get that? Oh, I've never seen that before. Oh, when did you get that outfit? And if I'd like say like, oh, I got this a while ago, like, she'd be like, it's weird that I didn't notice that. Because she was watching me so freaking hard that she literally knew every single move that I made. Something else that I noticed was very strange during this time was that me and my mom and Bianca could be sitting in the living room together and it would be crickets, like it'd be dead silent. And the moment I would get up to go to my room or get up to go use the bathroom or something, Bianca would immediately start talking to my mom. And you may think, oh, okay, that's innocent. But no, it's not. Because it would happen every single time I left the room, and it was very strange. Like, you can talk to my mother, when I'm not around, but you can't speak to her when I'm present? Like, what is happening that you feel like you need to speak to her in private? And God later revealed to me that, like I said, Satan comes to steal, kill, and destroy, and one of his favorite things to do is to cause division. Bianca is so used to breaking up families, and earlier when I mentioned, I'm sorry, let me finish this thought. She's so used to breaking up families that I guess she genuinely thought she could come between me and my mother. Like, I don't know what kind of mother and daughter she's been around to where that's actually a thing, but yeah, baby, that ain't gonna work here. Like, she really was trying to purposely get close to my mother when I was not around, as if she was gonna replace me or something. I don't know what her thought process was. I can't even make sense of it, but it's very strange to say the least. God later revealed to me, you know how I mentioned earlier that she cut off everybody and was mad at everybody but her adoptive father, who is also the person that abused her for years? I mean, let her tell it. God showed me that the reason why she hated her biological mother the reason why she hated her adoptive mother so much and had no ill emotions toward her adoptive father is because in her mind, she was, for lack of a better term for it, or her adoptive mother, was the other woman, because they were both having an intimate relationship with this man. So from a young age, she started to view her adoptive mother as the other woman, which is one of the reasons, or one of the things that fueled such a strong hatred for her mother within her. Was like, she saw her mother as competition. She saw her mother as competition in regards to, quote unquote, her man. As sick as that sounds, obviously it's very sick. Basically, from that point forward, she was always in competition with other women. She was always in competition with other women, which I think is why she targeted me, for several different reasons, and we're going to get into that later. I believe that's one of the reasons why she targeted me, and I believe that she was genuinely in competition with other women on a regular basis. Like, she was always trying to be the better woman. She was always trying to win somebody over, and she started to have a history of breaking up families. I'm going to get into this later, but like I said, this person was very promiscuous, and one thing they did often was cheat, which is one of the tactics of a covert narcissist. They love having something over you that you know nothing about. They love having something going on behind your back that you know nothing about. They love feeling like they have some kind of leverage over you. It's like a joke inside their head, like, haha, I know something that you don't know. That's how their minds work. This person was very used to being able to break up families and wanting to be like the chosen one or be the main woman. So, and I think that this situation was different because every other situation they've been in was very sexual, and this situation was like the first mother-daughter relationship they had been in, or that they had witnessed, and the first healthy one at that. Even though we were mother and daughter, she still felt like she could break us up, which is why I say the whole like talking to my mom behind my back. And like, she also started to do this thing like where even though she was my friend, or supposed to have been, she would go to my mom and talk to her about things before she'd come to me. She would go to my mom anytime she had an issue, anytime she had something to say, she'd go to my mom. She'd be knocking on my mom's door. Why are you so obsessed with her? Why are you always trying to get her involved in your life? I don't know exactly what book it is, but there's a children's book where basically, I think it's like a duck or something loses its mom, and it goes around asking all of these animals that are very clearly not ducks, are you my mommy? Are you my mommy? Are you my mommy? And it just goes around doing this throughout the entire book. And basically, I feel like Bianca is the personification of that. Like, they definitely had a very deep mother wound, which I do not blame them for. Their biological mother passed away when they were young, and they didn't know their biological father growing up. So I don't blame them. Like, how could you not have a mother wound? But because of that, and because she never healed, she basically just goes around just latching on to people's mothers and trying to make them hers. And that's exactly what she tried to do with my mom. It's very sick, actually. Something else I noticed during this time was that Bianca would sit on the phone for hours with some unknown person, which, by the way, Bianca was very, very, like, she was definitely an oversharer. Like, she would tell you things that you wouldn't care about, things that you wouldn't even want to know, things where it'd be like, why are you telling me this? But at this point, they began to become very secretive. And whoever this was that they were on the phone with, I still never learned who it was. I just know it was somebody that she was rolling around in the bed with, but I don't know exactly who this person was. But they would sit on the phone for hours, but they would be sitting on FaceTime, but they wouldn't be saying anything. And I started to feel like I was being watched. I started to feel like my conversations were being listened to. Like I needed to have certain conversations in private. And I even started telling my mom, like, don't say that in front of Bianca. Don't say these things. Like, at one point in time, I was having car trouble, and my mom had said something about it in front of Bianca. And I had, later on told my mom, like, please don't speak about what's going on in my personal life in front of her. If I wanted her to know that I had car troubles, I would tell her that. So I started to even set boundaries, like, y'all don't say this in front of her because things are weird. I can't quite put my finger on it yet, but things are weird. I'm being watched, and somebody's like trying to gain information on me. And I genuinely think that's what was happening when Bianca was sitting on the phone with whoever this person was for hours. They would literally just be listening to what was going on in the house and just watching. Colossians chapter 3 verse 5 says, so put to death the sinful earthly things lurking within you. Have nothing to do with sexual immorality, impurity, lust, and evil desires. Don't be greedy, for a greedy person is an idolater, worshiping the things of this world. I thought it was interesting that I mentioned the evil desires, because this person definitely had evil intentions toward me, and they definitely had evil desires. And I thank God that he revealed that to me. And so moving on to point 11, which is where my mother and I started to take our power back. So we began to really make sure that our home was clean. At this point, our home was like, it was like instead of three women living there, it looked like three grown men were living there. Or I wouldn't say grown men, it looked like three teenage boys were just up in here parlaying. It was nasty. I'm not proud of how my home was looking, but the home was a direct reflection of the chaos that was going on internally. And so my mom and I started to have like a cleaning schedule and everything. Like we were like, okay, this has got to stop. Like the dishes piling up, all of this mess, it's got to end. So we started like having a cleaning schedule, and we wouldn't go to sleep with dishes in the sink. Like we'd always make sure that things were cleaned up before we went to bed, and just make sure that we were really on top of that. And it's really interesting, the chaos, because people say you can tell somebody's mental state based on how they're living. And I really feel like that's true. Like that's why depression rooms are a thing, because the chaos, the mental chaos that's going on inside, yeah, that manifests physically. It was really interesting because when my mom and I started taking our spaces back and making sure our home was clean, all of the chaos started to go into Bianca's space. So like when she wasn't allowed to just leave chaos and just leave trash all over the place, because we were making sure we were cleaning up and everything, and I held her accountable, like, hey, dishwasher's empty, make sure you put your stuff away, stuff like that. Her area that she was staying at in my living room started to get messier and messier, and it was just, honestly, it was really disgusting. It was like literally probably like the worst depression room I have ever seen before in my life. And it was really interesting to see the shift. In addition to that, we also made sure that we were cleansing with incense several times a day, trying to purify the energy and just reset it. We made sure that every single day we were playing our gospel music, that we were praying, and that we were even listening to sermons out loud on the TV, which is really interesting because she would literally run away from the sermons. Like she'd be in bed chilling. If we went into the living room and put on a sermon, she would literally jump up and run out the front door. I'm not kidding you. It was crazy to see firsthand. So let's head over to James chapter 4, verse 7, which says, so humble yourselves before God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. We were doing everything that we could to cast down Satan, and it was working right before our eyes. And the more we did this, the more she ran and the more angry she got. John chapter 8 verse 44, which says, for you are the children of your father the devil, and you love to do the evil things he does. He was a murderer from the beginning, and he has always hated the truth because there is no truth in him. When he lies, it is consistent with his character, for he is a liar and the father of lies. Right? It says here that the devil hated truth. He hated truth and loved to do evil, and so do his people. Like I said, she began to become blatantly disrespectful of our home, and I really think it's interesting because you know how they say no rest for the wicked? This person was staying out, Bianca was staying out all times of the night. She wouldn't come home until like 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, and even then, she would sleep like 2 hours and then get right back up and be at it again. Like she literally did not sleep. Like she was literally fueled by wrongdoing. She was fueled by doing evil. And she also began to blatantly ignore us. This woman got very comfortable just coming in and out of our house, just completely ignoring us. She wouldn't say anything. And even when we would speak to her, it was like she was angry that we were talking to her, or the demons inside of her was angry. You could literally see the demons like directly reacting to things that we would say and do. And when we took our power and our home back, it was a noticeable shift in her energy. She became very antsy, like she just didn't really know what to do with herself. In addition to that, she also looked really horrible. And I'm not saying that to drag anybody. I'm saying like you could see death on her face. You could see that she was really, really going through it. I am going to go ahead and end part 2 of the story here. Make sure you come back next week, Wednesday, to tune in for part 3, the finale of this story. There are several parts that I left out, I'm realizing as I told the story, because it is so much to remember. I'm thinking about doing a follow-up later on with the details of the things that I missed. Let me know if y'all would be into that. But for the time being, I hope that you all enjoyed today's video. I pray that it blessed you and that this word helps you to grow in the spirit and grow closer to God. And until next time, keep walking in the garden with Him.